Hey everyone, Logan Hertz here with Hazeltine LLC. We've got back our friend D'Andre Clayton, the resident velocity banking expert. D'Andre, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing today, Logan?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I've been making more of an effort lately to respond to comments, not just responding to them in the comment section, which by the way, I read every comment and I respond to it, but also to try and respond to them via video as well. And there was one that came up lately on
Okay.
velocity banking that I thought we'd give a little bit of attention to in a video. And that's why I brought DeAndre on because this particular comment was related to the first lien HELOC slash velocity banking strategy. And while I do that, while it's part of my business, it's not really my primary area of expertise. My
Mhm.
primary area of expertise is infinite banking and full life insurance. I try to help people solve whatever financial problems they have. But oftentimes, if it involves some of these other things, that's where I'll bring in partners to do it.
Right.
So I'm just going to start by reading the comment, sharing and reading the comment, and then I'll let DeAndre give his thoughts and I'll give my thoughts and we'll have a little discussion here.
Absolutely.
The first comment just an easy question. Corey Gumball just asks, who does first lien HELOCs on investment properties? And then Hazeltine responds and says, I don't answer specific questions like this publicly, but there are lenders who do. And then Boone JM78 responds and says, Hazeltine LLC, I think this is why these types of products are still known to virtually no Main Street consumer. There are tons of people out there preaching these products, but when asked who offers them, it seems to be behind some form of wall. This gives the illusion that these products either are not as great as pitched, or I will have to pay to receive this information. It creates barriers to a consumer learning more about the product and arguable diminishes its legitimacy. Everyone knows how a traditional mortgage works and where to get one because the information is free and flowing, no walls to overcome. I also understand that banks make more money on traditional mortgages, so they are going to knock down those barriers for the consumer, capitalism at its core. Yes, every situation is different, and these products are not for every situation. But why will you not speak about who even offer these products publicly and let the consumer do their own due diligence? All right, DeAndre, you want to take it away?
One, I would say part of it, I feel like he answered his own question a little bit. He answered his own question a little bit when he talked about the capitalism of the banks, so on and so forth. But the other portion is I always like to let people know there's general information and then there's tailored information. And one, everything he's asking, just as he could have typed that into your comment section, he could have typed that directly into Google. You still have the ability to do the same homework on your own and find out who first lien lenders are yourself. So that's number one, which is why I didn't necessarily understand the comment initially because I'm like, you could just type the same thing into Google and start finding lenders. The other portion I would state is if there is a higher level of information, why would you always want everything for free? Right? We do have to start really understanding that free things don't mean better, right? Oftentimes, what's offered to you for free is usually in order to entice you in for something that is really expensive. So when he talked about the mortgage in particular, yeah, you will drive down the street and you will see the same companies that offer first position HELOCs and never tell you that they offer first position HELOCs. You will see those same companies marketing their mortgage rates. They're there, right? Now, why are they marketing their mortgage rates? And that's also another issue I have with the comment is why would you not be more aggravated with the bank? It's not our product. We don't sell mortgages. Going to somebody who advises on how to utilize it and all that kind of stuff, and then saying, hey, on a public platform, I want you to reveal everything to me on a public platform. Why wouldn't you require that of the bank that is selling the same products? I could go down a list of many of them who do actually sell the same product but they just don't tell the consumer. So it's not the people who are teaching you about the concept that would more so be at fault. It would be more so the bank, the institution who actually offers it, because they have the marketing budget as well to fuel more people being able to know about it. If Wells Fargo wanted people to know that they have first position HELOCs, they would tell you. It's if PenFed or whoever or USAA, whoever it is, because there's so many of them that actually offer the product, that it's not even a conversation where we have to narrow it down to that degree. It is a lot of people who offer this particular product. I would more so point the finger at why aren't more people doing what Anthony Rushing is doing? And the reality is the connection of what he stated was, I understand that the banks make more money on traditional mortgages, so they are going to knock down those barriers for the consumer. Capitalism at its core. So you have the answer for why the banks aren't doing it. But your anger is towards the people who are revealing to you that something exists in the first place. Because most people don't even know it exists. So why would you feel that way towards the person who is now revealing something to you that is brand new to you, that you could have walked to your regular bank and for some reason no loan officer said, "Have you ever heard of this?" I just think it's misplaced anger in that particular aspect.
Yeah, there's so
Misplaced.
many there's so many things I want to say. Were you finished, or did you have more to add?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
There's so many things I want to say to this. First of all, he says, I think this is why these types of products are still known to virtually no mainstream consumer. Wait a minute. I'm talking about first lien HELOCs. I am revealing the product. You're saying because one specific little iota of information that you happen to want is not available, therefore that's responsible for why people don't know about first lien HELOCs in the first place? No, I'm doing my best to raise awareness about first lien HELOCs. That doesn't mean I'm going to answer every specific question. And this comment to me comes from someone who has never run a business. A lot of banks will not publish their rates, and there's very good reasons for that. A lot of companies will not publish their pricing. You want to know what it costs? You got to come and talk to us. We're not going to publish our pricing for a lot of very good reasons, right? um, the sort of person who demands information like this is the sort of person who's a parasite, who thinks everything should be available to them for free. They should never have to pay anyone anything. And they just demand more and more. It kind of reminds me what Babe Ruth said: the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. And it's always
Yeah.
true. The people who complain and whine the loudest are always the people who are never willing to pay you a dime. And if they're forced to pay you a dime, they get really angry. It's like, look, you
Right.
get what you pay for. Okay. So, first of all, obviously, what you're saying is obviously false. The reason why first lien HELOCs are not known to the average person is not because I'm talking about first lien HELOCs, right? It's not because, oh, I didn't reveal this one specific iota of information, right? So the concept, the idea of first lien HELOC and velocity banking, I am promoting it, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to answer every specific question. And there are a lot of very good reasons for that. Because Mr. Boone, my question to you is, why didn't you schedule time with me? If you have questions that need to be answered, my link is right there. There's no wall. I'm not even
Yeah.
charging you any money. There's no wall there. The only wall is of your own creation because you wanted me to make everything publicly available to you and you're too lazy to even click on a link and schedule time with me. I've got news for you. I have people who have questions about the first lien HELOC, and you know what they do?
They
They
book
don't sit
appointment.
back and whine. They schedule time with me and they get all their questions answered.
Book
It's very
appointment.
simple, right? So I don't understand why that would even be a relevant question. The only time that sort of a specific question is relevant, so he's asking about, give me the specific names of lenders who do this for an investment property. Okay, if that's the question you have, then I'm assuming you're serious about this and you're at the point where you're ready to move forward. So why don't you just schedule time with me? You're saying you don't need me. You're saying, look, I don't need you. Just give me the information. I'll do it all myself. Do you go to your cardiologist and say, hey, give me the EKG? I'll interpret it myself. I know what I'm doing. I don't need you. Okay. Get out of here. So now maybe that's true. Maybe you can do it all yourself. But that creates a problem for me because I'm not running a charity. I'm not here to be an encyclopedia of free information. The whole purpose of the content I'm putting out is to grow my business. And if
Mhm.
I can't profit from it at some point, then I have to quit and go home and do something else. Maybe if I'm just doing it as a hobby. To your point, D'Andre, the people who are able to put out lots of free information are people who have lots of money. They have a large marketing budget. So if you have the attitude of this guy where you expect everything for free, you're always going to be shopping at the corporate bullies, because the massive corporate bullies, they have the money, they have the marketing budget. Your bank gives you a checking account for free, right? Fidelity lets you trade stocks for free, right? All the stuff that's available for free. Facebook, you don't have to pay them a dime, right?
Mm.
Because they're setting up an abusive relationship with you. And when you want to set up an abusive relationship with someone, what you do is you give them what they want, and the strings attached to it are hidden. JP Morgan Chase right now will pay you $300 to set up a checking account with them. So does that mean JP Morgan Chase is a charitable organization? They're handing out free money? It reminds me of the wealthy accountant when he's caricaturing us and saying we're claiming the insurance companies are warm, fuzzy entities handing out free money.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
according to his logic, the banks are warm, fuzzy entities handing out
Right.
free money,
Right.
because they will pay you $300 to sign up for a free checking account with them. So they're
Yeah.
not charging you anything. They're giving you money, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the attitude of this guy where you say, hey, all the information should be all available publicly and freely, well, then you're always going to end up shopping with the corporate bullies who are going to take advantage of you, right?
Mhm.
You get what you pay for. So, Mr. Boone, I actually think you're a liar. You say you want this information. My response is put your money where your mouth is. I love that saying we have in America, put your money where your mouth is.
Money
If you
where-
really want this information, my question is, what's it worth to you?
Yeah.
If you're not willing to pay a dime for it and you're not even willing to schedule time with me, you're telling me you don't really want this information. So you're a liar. You do not want this information. If you did, you'd be willing to pay for it.
We're
If
just
you
both-
really wanted your questions answered, you'd be willing to schedule time with me.
Yeah.
Now, even beyond all that, there's a really good reason why I don't give specific information like that. It's because it's misleading. Mr. Boone, you have the false impression that you are the expert on velocity banking, and that if I give you all the information, you can make the right decision. That is false.
That's false.
You are not an expert on velocity banking. This is not a commodity. This is not a commodity. This is a strategy. You need to be working with a qualified professional like myself or D'Andre. Like Sebastian Boyer said, look, guys, I do not recommend doing this on your own. I've seen it. It does not work out well.
It does
What
not work
people
out.
like Mr. Boone will do is they will come out and extract as much free information from people like me as possible. And then they'll go and try and do it on themselves because they don't want to pay a dime to anybody else. And it ends up very badly for them. Whether it be infinite banking or velocity banking, you need to partner with someone, right? The benefits are tremendous, right? Stop being a parasite, be willing to pay for value, or you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. So it just seems to me that Mr. Boone doesn't want to pay us any money. There's no wall there. There is no wall hiding information. It's all available if you're willing to put some time and effort and maybe, God forbid, some money into it. To D'Andre's point, D'Andre and I are not loan officers. We cannot be compensated on the loan. So you can't just parasitically feed off of me and not give me any money at some point, right? The corporate bullies can do that. They've got the budget to give you lots of free information. We don't. The other reason, too, is that there's actually a good reason why the banks don't publicize first lien HELOCs. It's not just profit, okay? It's also, there's actually a good reason, okay, that doesn't make the banks evil, that actually makes the banks responsible, which is that the first lien HELOC is an advanced product for people who want to implement an advanced strategy. It is not for the average person. The
Yeah.
average person should not be signing up for first lien HELOCs.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Boone, if you try to go to the banks directly and do a first lien HELOC, you might run into problems because, like with Anthony and others who specialize in first lien HELOCs, they're going to ask you back, which ambassador are you working with? Which of our financial professionals are you working with who's helping coach you through this process? They don't like you going straight to them.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you're not
They don't.
qualified.
They do not like.
You are not qualified.
That's true.
If first lien HELOCs were sold like your standard HELOCs, it'd be a disaster for the bank and it'd be a
Mhm.
disaster for the average person.
It would.
So, Mr. Boone, maybe you are responsible enough and smart enough to just get the information and do this all on your own. Maybe you are. But if that's the case, that creates a problem for me because where's the value to me? Stop thinking like a self-absorbed person. You got to think about it from my perspective. If I don't get compensated, I have to quit and go home and do something else. You don't have a right to parasitically feed off of me and just get all the free information that you want and then give me the middle finger and go do it with somebody else or do it on your own. Again, I find that the people who are serious about this would never have a question like this. They would schedule time with me. It was the same thing when I did infinite banking. It never crossed my mind to say, hey, can you tell me which specific insurance companies I should be working with? And can you tell me how this and that and the other thing works? It's like, no,
Yeah,
once I
exactly.
understand the concept, I'm going to go and meet with an expert who's going to help me do it. If you want to build a house, are you going to do all the plans and do everything yourself? Or are you just going to say, here's an idea of what I want. Let me now go meet with a home builder who's going to help me build it. But what it shows is, I guess he just has nothing but contempt for the amount of skill that people like you and I have, right? What it's telling me is that you really don't have any respect for my time and you really don't have any respect for my expertise. You think this is just a commodity.
Right.
One of the reasons why we don't publish specific information is because this is not a commodity. Like when banks start publishing their rates, you know what happens? It turns it into a commodity. Then
Gotcha.
people just put the numbers in a spreadsheet and say, here's the best rate. That's the one I'm going with. Now you just turned yourself into a commodity, made yourself irrelevant. This is not a commodity, folks. You're not buying a cup of coffee. Okay. This is a strategy that requires thinking, it requires expertise, it requires discipline. Mr. Boone, there's no wall between you and the information. The problem is you're not willing to schedule time with me and you're not willing to pay any money, right? I used to run an investment newsletter. Am I going to publish all my recommendations for free? Of course not. Of course not. I'm publishing enough information to generate interest so that then when you want the more specific information, I'm going to charge you money for it. So he says capitalism as its core. I don't think he knows anything about capitalism. Apparently, to him, capitalism means giving everything away for free, I guess.
Well,
That
and
might
it's
be
not
crony
even.
capitalism. The reason why they can give it away for free is because they're making money other ways.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that, it needs to be highlighted, that usually the free carrot is free on the surface, right? It's your bank is reaching out to you to do a second position HELOC or a home loan or whatnot, or even to refi. And they're going to reach out to you. They're going to take the initiative to do that because they know that the income they're going to be receiving is massive and that all you're thinking about myopically is, I got access to this money. Not how I'm gonna pay it off, not how quickly I'm gonna pay it off, not how much is it gonna cost me. What position is this money gonna put me in? And so it's hard for a lot of people because that's one, this is a microwave generation too. So I'll also say that, right? Like people are just used to hopping somewhere. Let me get it, let me get it, let me get it. All right, go. Let me get it, let me get it. All right, go. And people are not focus oriented, right? I can't tell you how many times I'll have an appointment and somebody asks me at the end of the appointment, so what's the payment on the first lien HELOC? And I'm like,
Yeah, guys, I've seen it again.
so
Smart people. If you do this on your own, it's going to cause problems. Mr. Boone probably thinks if I just give him the information, he can do it on his own. It doesn't work out well for you, I promise you. I've seen it with infinite banking more than velocity banking just because that's what I do more of, right? And people extract free information out of me from my YouTube channel. Then they go and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this now." And I'm like,
I'm
"Really?
trying to do it on their
Let,
own.
let, let me see what you got." And I look at it, I'm like, "This is a variable universal life policy." Like, "Oh yeah, they told me I'd get a higher rate of return." I'm
Oh,
like, I had a guy and I had to explain to him, no, this you cannot do infinite banking with a VUL, right? And I'm explaining this to him, and he had to bite the bullet then and do a 1035 exchange, replace his VUL in like year one. He lost probably more than $20,000. That was like a $25,000 mistake that he made, right? We were able to correct it, thankfully. It would have been worse if he had kept going with that. But again, these are smart people who do their research. And so when Mr. Boone, when you say do their own due diligence, well, that's the problem. You're not competent to do the due diligence. Yes, you can do some of it. And yes, you have to have the ultimate decision making responsibility. That's true. But what makes you think you are competent to do the due diligence? The sort of question that's being asked, about first lien HELOCs on investment properties tells me this person probably doesn't really understand how this works,
You don't know
right?
what you're doing.
Because I work with big time real estate investors, and we always start almost. I can imagine some scenarios where you wouldn't do this, but typically you're going to do a first lien HELOC on your primary residence first, even if you have investment properties, right? So you're jumping 10 steps ahead to a very specific question that indicates you don't really understand the strategy. So we got to back up and make sure you really understand the strategy first. And once you understand the strategy, then these details become secondary. They're not unimportant, but they are secondary. If you don't have the lowest interest rate, it's not a big deal, right? If you're not working with the best bank, it's not a big
Right.
deal. What's important is the strategy. Same thing with infinite banking. There is no best mutual company. There is no best way to design whole life. Okay. We'll look at it for your specific situation. And as long as it's a good product and you know how to use it, you're going to get the most out of it. Right. So, yeah. So, yeah, there's no wall, Mr. Boone. All you had to do was schedule time with me. Why didn't you do that? Well, that's the obvious answer. Like, you want that information? Okay, schedule time with me. I'm happy to answer all your questions. Now, let me tell you this, Mr. Boone. My official rate is $500 an hour. Now, I almost never charge that. The reason being, I can make money other ways, right? So I'll meet with you. Typically, I meet with people for free and we keep talking, and I make kind of a judgment call, right? So if we're on our way towards a life insurance application, things like that, then I'll make money when we put that life insurance policy in force, right? So if you want your questions answered, Mr. Boone, that's fine. Just schedule time with me. But for you, $500 is due up front. So pay me $500.
You got to come up right away just because of the
Yeah, pay me $500. Then you'll have an hour of my time and you'll get all your questions answered. No problem. If you're not willing to pay $500, then you're not serious about this. You're not serious about this.
Yeah.
So come back when you're serious. Or you don't think I'm worth $500, in which case, okay, then that creates a problem for me. Maybe I'm not worth $500, then I need to quit. This is a challenge that oftentimes we have in this space because one of the services that we provide for the insurance companies and for the banks is we absorb risk for them. So whenever a business goes out and prospects and markets, there's risk because they know a lot of that effort will not lead to a sale. So they spend money and they don't know if they're going to make any money. So one of the risks we have, as an example, in the life insurance business, I might spend time with someone and they might end up deciding not to apply for a policy, or they might end up we apply and it turns out they're not insurable because
Right.
their health is not good, right? Or the worst case scenario is you put a lot of time and effort into it and then they give the business to somebody else, right? I had that happen to someone recently. He put like 10 hours of work into a really good case. And then at the end of the day, after all that work, the prospect basically gave him the middle finger and gave the business to his brother or his brother-in-law, someone like that who was already in the business. This is why this again, there are good business reasons why you don't just give out all information. Okay. Transparency is not a virtue. It's not a virtue. It's a vice. Discretion is the virtue. It's only social media that leads us to believe that transparency is a virtue. It's not. Okay. Discretion is the virtue. If based on the information that's publicly available, you feel like you need more, that tells me something is wrong. Something is wrong. There is plenty of freely available information, enough out there to tell you whether velocity banking with a first lien HELOC is worth considering. I'm not even saying it's right for you. And then you need to go and meet with an expert to decide if it's right for you, right? So because of that reason, there are people I know in the business who will charge up front for their time. So I know a guy, he charges $1,000, right? And the reason why he does that is not because he makes money off of the $1,000 fee. It's not a big deal to him. The reason is because he got tired of wasting his time doing a lot of work for people and then having them give the business to somebody else or decide not to move forward. I'm still at the point where I'll meet with people for free, but as my business grows, that will probably change. And again, it's not because I'm trying to make money off of the consultation.
Yeah.
It's to weed out people who are not serious.
Yes.
It reminds me of when you're a landlord. I learned about landlord best practices, and one of the landlord best practices is always charge an application fee, and it's
Yep.
always non-refundable. Right? Always charge an application fee, and it's always non-refundable. That's just to weed out potentially bad tenants and people who are not serious. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I really don't understand the objection. What more information would you need to decide if you want to move forward? And moving forward doesn't mean sign on the dotted line. It means schedule time with me.
Schedule time. Yeah, schedule time. Yeah. No, I think and just the verbiage of paywall or behind the wall, I think and this is specific to those of us in this consulting, like the financial consulting space in particular, I feel that you're a villain if you're paid. We don't
Mm.
see that in because if you look on LinkedIn any given day, there's a million conversations about fees versus commissions and all this other foolishness. And in reality, what's really being the undertone is for those who are in the insurance industry or for those who are doing financial consulting for things like this, you don't deserve to be compensated. This should be free, right? The things that shouldn't be free is if I was a planner, or the things that shouldn't be free is, oh, it's okay for me to pay a realtor their commission. It's okay for me to pay a plumber when he comes by and inspects my toilet or whatever, right? It's okay. It's okay for me to pay the HVAC guy, right? And so I think that there's a lack of reality in this middle ground of space when it comes to financial consultation that people are like, is it? I don't know. Do I really want to go through all of that? And I like to blame it on the investment industry, but
Yeah, all the most expensive products out there are the ones that are free,
the ones that are
guaranteed. The
absolutely,
banks make a
absolutely
ton of money and
all
their
of them.
product is free, right? The investment, to your point, it's free in the sense that you're not paying anything out of pocket. It's just coming out of
Right.
assets under management. So you don't see it coming out of your pocket. Think about it this way, right? It's counterintuitive, but the most profitable products, generally speaking, I'm generalizing. This is not a hard and fast rule, but generally speaking, the most profitable products are the cheapest, right? It's counterintuitive because people think
Yeah,
if you're selling a product that's $50,000, like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's a ripoff. Well, hold on. How many people are willing to spend $50,000?
not that.
And if you're going to spend $50,000, you're going to really think it through, right? You're going to have to really demonstrate the value that it's worth $50,000, right? On the other hand, if I sell a product that's 10 bucks a month or something like that, a lot of people sign up without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
Who makes more money? Your local health food store that sells expensive products or McDonald's?
McDonald's every
Yeah,
day.
McDonald's, you can eat for 5 bucks. It's great, right? So
Yeah.
the most profitable products out there are the ones that are the cheapest, especially the ones that are free. So, Mr. Boone, if you want free products, go shop at the corporate bullies. If you want high quality products and a high quality relationship with a financial professional that you respect, that's where I want to be. A lot of my clients have the abundance mindset where when I'm meeting with them, they're like asking me, hey, how do you get paid? I want to pay you. I don't want you to spend all this time
Yep.
and not be compensated.
Yeah.
Those are the people who have the abundance mindset. Those are the people who end up wealthy. The
Mm.
parasites who just want to take everything for free never end up wealthy. It's funny how that works,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah, they end up broke. And the other aspect of the most profitable products, the most profitable products are the easiest to get into. And this is an explanation I use when we talk about the person will be like, "Oh, I don't want to get a pyramid. I don't want nothing with the life insurance, but they want to they want a large style high cash value." And it's like, okay, so let me just help you with that. If you want to go to Gerber, you're probably never going to use the insurance. It's going to be cheaper, but it's going to be more expensive because you never use it, right? And so the underwriting is, oh, it's approved once the application is done because there really ain't no underwriting. And so setting a person up for, and this is something as far as expectations set, 4 to 6 weeks if you're going to do a HELOC, right? A first position HELOC. It's not going to be like when you want to just add 30 years to your mortgage. No, that's not what it is, right? uh,
Right.
because it's not necessarily beneficial for the bank to even offer the first position HELOC, right? So of course they're going to make the aspects of the parameters around it, the requirements that you need to meet. They're going to be more stringent on that than they are on a mortgage. Right? So you just have to go into it realizing that just because something is easy to access does not make it good.
The unstated implication behind what he's saying is one of two things. It's either I'm competent to do everything myself and I don't need you, or I don't respect your insights or your time. Either way, that's a problem. Maybe you don't need me, right? Maybe you can do this all on your own. Well, obviously that creates a problem for me. Well, then why am I wasting my time? Right.
Yep.
So again, would you go to your cardiologist and say, just send me the EKG? I'll figure it. I'll take it from here. I don't need you. I don't need your time. And even then, it doesn't necessarily create a problem for the cardiologist because he'll charge you for the EKG. The insurance will pay him for doing the EKG. So if you really wanted to do that, wouldn't recommend it. But the cardiologist would be like, all right, you paid me, right? So yeah, it's like you think an attorney is going to give you his time for free? He might give you the first consultation for free to try and understand what's going on. But at some point, he's got to be compensated. I agree with you, DeAndre. It's strange how in every other corner of the universe, we understand that if you want a product or if you want a service, you need to pay for it. Yet somehow in the financial industry, we feel like everything should be available for free, right?
Not totally in the financial industry, in the insurance and financial consultation industry. Because people are just fine looking at a CFP and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna pay." Like, I understand that I'm gonna pay. And so it's partially what the industries have done with villainizing compensation for other forms that are outside of what they do.
It couldn't be that their villainization of how we get compensated is totally self-interested. It couldn't
Right.
be that they're villainizing it because they view us
Right.
as competition and they want to exalt their own product and their own process on which they make money over ours where they don't make money. No, it's just they're just trying to help you, DeAndre.
Yeah, that's the perspective that they want you to believe.
Yeah. So
The per-
honestly, Mr. Boone, I really don't understand your question or your objection. From my perspective, I don't see any wall between you and the information. You can easily get all the information that you want. Schedule a consultation. Like, why
Mhm.
didn't you do that? That's the obvious answer. You want an answer to your question, schedule a consultation with me. I'll be happy to answer all your questions. It would be irresponsible for me to be publishing all these details. That would be totally irresponsible for me because then people like you who think you know how to do this will misuse it and get yourself into trouble. Okay. So I'm not going to do that. As an example, you notice on my, now some people have done this, but on my channel, you notice I don't say, here are the top 10 insurance carriers you should be using for infinite banking. I don't do that. If you're focused on that, you're missing the point, right? You're
Mhm.
totally missing the point. You're focusing on an irrelevant detail, right? You've got to understand the strategy first. And then what specific carrier you work with becomes not unimportant, but secondary. And there's more than one, right? It's not like there's one that is the best and all the others are trash, right? Or there's one way to design it and everything else is trash. No, there is a spectrum of products and carriers you can use as long as you know what you're doing, it's and you're working with someone who's good, it's gonna end up well.
Right. Right. And there's a personal approach too. I think that some people miss. I can give you all the general information in the world. Would you choose the right company that is for you? I think a lot of people don't necessarily connect with that. But to me, when people ask for stuff like this, it's as if they would want to go to a dietitian and they want a dietitian to give them just general information about diets.
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm here at the dietitian because there's something wrong with my diet. And I want you to address that. And I want you to take into consideration my A1C levels. I want you to take into consideration what I'm allergic to, so on and so forth. I don't want you to just spurt out to me, well, the rates are this. And I think
Right, right.
people have gotten so used to wanting information that is general to try to DIY and not recognize that you are likely to hurt yourself more so than anybody else, right? It's not we try to paint the picture of the villain, of the agent who wants money, but it really is a lot of people who just hurt themselves with not being willing to book an appointment. I'll give you an example. There was a client who called me about an infinite banking style policy. Actually, no, she didn't call me. She emailed me and emailed me the illustration that somebody else provided for her and had already bought the policy, but then just wanted me to see it to say, is this a design that's helpful for infinite banking? didn't want my services, but just wanted me to audit it. So I sent an email and said, I can't remember if we've met before. Have we met before? Because I'm thinking a client may do that, may say, hey, I went and did this. I just want your advice that I made the right decision. Of course, I hope a client would ask me before they make the decision, but hey, but a random person who just watched my content and goes out there and says, okay, I'm going to go and get somebody to design me a policy with said company and whatever. And so they went and did it and then wanted advice on, does this look right? Because it doesn't feel like what you were talking about. You should have booked an appointment. Why are you
Yeah.
asking me afterwards, after you spent money and lost it because you didn't know what you actually purchased? And similar to what you said, like how the guy lost the 20 grand, he could have saved 20 grand and paid you 500 to make sure he did the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the obvious answer to your question, Mr. Boone. Why didn't you schedule a consultation?
Yeah. Schedule
I'm
time.
happy to answer. I have multiple people, and I don't even charge them necessarily. I've had multiple people. I did not charge them anything. They did a consultation. They got a first lien HELOC. But I really don't. I don't understand this attitude. If you want your questions answered, you can get them answered. Schedule time with me, no problem.
Yeah.
Right. But when
Mm.
people ask questions like this, I'm like, why are you asking this question in the comments of a YouTube section? If you have a question like that, why don't you just schedule time with me?
That's
What's wrong with
approximately.
you? I don't understand. I don't understand.
I wanna hone in a little bit more because I was looking at a comment on LinkedIn this morning that kind of led me to what I was stating to you. Financial planner. This is his comment about, and it was in reference to life insurance. Get the recommendations from someone whose income isn't directly correlated with how much you spend. And then he thought he did something special. So he said, watch the commission hawk swarm and attack this common sense comment. So my question about that, like that premise is so ridiculous to me
You'd
because
have to shut down every single business in the universe. When you walk into Walmart, do you think Walmart is compensated for you buying Walmart products? Like what? You'd have to shut down every single business in the universe if you follow that premise to its logical conclusion, right?
okay, so I want to buy real estate. Should I should I not engage with a realtor to understand it better? I want to get my car fixed. Should I not talk to a mechanic and have him look over it? It's the most ridiculous thing ever, but they apply this to life insurance to demonize
Mhm,
commission, right? And
mhm,
so to me, when I hear it and I see it, I'm just like, why would you want a recommendation from someone who doesn't practice what you're asking a recommendation? If
mhm,
I'm not going to my dentist for a cardiology recommendation,
mhm.
I don't need him to be like, you know what? I know I work on teeth, but that other guy, he gets paid to work on your heart. So I don't look, I'm gonna tell you who you need to go to besides him. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you if you need a stent. It's the most ridiculous
Yeah, yeah,
foolishness that is in
right.
the industry. And it's a lack of respect for staying in your lane. Like, I'm not the person who says, come to me and talk to me about REITs.
Mhm,
I'm not that guy. That's not my realm. I'm not telling you to buy gold. I'm not telling
mhm,
you to buy silver. I'm not telling you any nuances of those particular conversations because I'm not
mhm.
licensed to.
But even putting aside licenses, yeah, it's just a matter of expertise,
It's not,
right?
I'm not an expert at it.
When
Yeah,
I did strategy consulting in the telecom space,
right.
I wouldn't then go advise oil and gas companies, right? That's not my area of
It's,
expertise. And you would say, "Oh, don't ask that guy about telecom. He makes money from telecom."
it's the most ridiculous thing
I
I've
guess you should ask me about things that I'm not an expert in because I don't get compensated for them. What?
I do not, and I'm amazed at when I see it, and especially because he put eagles around his comment, and it says, "Watch the commission hawks swarm and attack the comment and attack this common sense comment." Look, folks, It is not common sense to go to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about to get a recommendation, because nobody is omnipotent in education. There's not,
Right.
me nor Logan are omnipotent. Neither any certified financial planner, neither is any, even in niches. So even in the car niche,
Mhm.
not everybody knows every car. So you can't go to a mechanic who says, I'm great on working with Toyotas, and then say, hey, I got a Bentley. Can you work on it?
Mhm.
Hey, I got a Jaguar. Can you work on it? Hey, I have a BMW. Can you work on it? Even they have different certifications per type of car and where the car comes from, the country or where the car comes from. So, in like manner, if you see a person who's educating individuals on a regular basis on the topic, you book time with that person.
Right.
You book time with that person. Stop being foolish trying to count whoever's pockets and think about it from that standpoint. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
so
And also, as you go further in this business, you are less willing to give out information. And not because I'm trying to hide it, but because we know it's going to be abused. What
yeah,
happens is, I know a lot of people in the life insurance business, they will not give out illustrations. Send me the numbers. Nope. The
no,
answer is no.
no,
Because if someone says, send me the numbers, you will never hear back from that person. You send it to them,
no,
you will never hear back from them. What they're
no,
saying is, I don't need you. Just give me the numbers and I'll do it. Right. Okay. Well, first of all, even if that's true, let's assume that is true, then where's the value to me? I've got to be compensated. So if you're not, now, if you want to pay me for an illustration, sure, then take it and do whatever you want with it.
no.
Because what happens is
Go
you
to
give out an
Ecos.
illustration. Once that illustration is out there, guess what?
They start
Every
shopping
insurance
them.
company has teams that can reverse engineer an illustration and make it seem like, oh, yeah, I can do that too. No, you just did a copy paste exercise. Okay. That doesn't mean you have any understanding of infinite banking or life insurance principles. So the consumer who thinks he knows but doesn't really will take that illustration to someone else who can then basically do a copy paste and make it seem like it's the same thing or make it seem like he knows what he's doing or make the numbers look better when really he doesn't. So again, the unstated implication is I can figure this out. I don't need you. Well, okay. If that's true, then go do it. Why are you wasting my time? If you don't
Yep.
need me, then stop asking me questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't ask me a question.
So, Mr. Boone, put your money where your mouth is. If you want answers to your questions, no problem. $500 up front. You get an hour of my time. I'll answer all your questions, no problem. If you're not willing to pay $500, you're not serious. You don't respect my time. You don't respect my expertise. Stop being a parasite. Stop being a parasite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, for the rest of you, I will talk to you for free, just so we're clear. I don't charge for the
But he
first
gets it.
consultation. After that, it's a judgment call to see where we go.
Right.
Usually, I don't end up charging for my time because usually it ends up being a life insurance policy or something else where I get
Um,
compensated, right? But there's definitely, it's not just, it's a mutual discernment process. It's not just the customer deciding, do I want to work with me? It's also me deciding, do I want to
I
work with
want
you?
to work with you. Yeah.
Because I definitely have people who waste my time. And at some point, it's like, hey, look, I can't keep giving you my time for free. $500 an hour. And then you never hear from them again, right? Because they
Yep.
were never serious to begin with.
Yep.
Especially to your point earlier, DeAndre, I'll get you probably get this too. Sometimes I get people sending me one sentence emails with a question. You could type that into a Google search and get the answer to your question.
So I don't like.
Schedule time with me. If you
Yeah.
want answers to your questions, schedule time with me.
Yeah. That's
So, Mr. Boone, there's no wall. When you go to a coffee shop and say, hey, give me the coffee, and they say, you need to pay us first, and you say, there's a wall. You're putting a wall between me and the coffee. How dare you? Right? It's like, no, this is the way every business works. If you want the coffee, pay for it. If you're not willing to pay for it, what you're saying is you don't want the coffee. So quit taking advantage of other people. Okay.
Starbucks is making hand over fist. So I think he's willing to pay for it.
He's getting taken advantage of, I'm sure. The corporate bullies are very good at giving you products for free. And
Yeah.
they
They
make,
they
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 make a ton of
love.
money off of those free products.
Yeah. They love it because you don't know how to judge what's important about a process. And I think your point about commodity versus like actually understanding the strategy is astute, because when it comes to a process, it does involve education. When it comes to a commodity, there's no education. Now, the problem with treating this as a commodity, you might say, okay, they gave me the bank. All right, now I go to the bank. The interest rate is that? You don't understand the concept at all. You don't understand the concept at all. You don't understand. Like I said, when I get to the end of an appointment and a client asks me, or a person asks me, what's the payment? I automatically tell them, this isn't for you. If this question happens more than maybe twice throughout this meeting, it means that you're not listening to me and that you're myopically focused on how you understand mortgages.
Or you don't have the ability to comprehend it.
Right.
So,
You
Mr.
don't have
Boone,
the ability to comprehend it. So,
why do we not publish every little jot and tittle of irrelevant details? It's to keep people like you away.
yeah.
That's why. People who are serious wouldn't have questions like this. Or if they were at that point, they would schedule time with me so they
mm,
can get ready to move forward. And to your point, it's not just about understanding the concept, but also this is not a one size fits all solution. Everything about it has to be tailored to you. It's more like a custom built home. You can't just say, give me a custom built home. I have to know more about you and what
Yep.
you want so I can structure it for you. So when we look at infinite banking or the first lien HELOC, how are you going to leverage it? And if you think you know all that and you can figure it all out on your own, then great, go do it. Why are you wasting my time? Like, if you want my time, you need to show me that you value my time. If you want my
Well,
expertise, you need to show me that you value my expertise, right?
the issue that you just raised is that most people are booking time, but they want you to believe they're smart at what you're doing, which is where the issue is. Majority of people, if this is your first time hearing it, you have no business speaking on it. You have no business DIYing it or anything like that. I remember after our last, I think we did a post and it was talking about using the HELOC, and I had mentioned to you one of my clients had an infinite banking policy and also a HELOC, and they use it to get a laundromat. And then there was a guy who made a post because he thinks he's smart. He's not, but he made a post about, oh, should people be getting into debt? Here's an idea using a first lien HELOC and then borrowing to fund an insurance policy. Look at the amount of debt. And he wasn't, also, he wasn't honest because he also didn't mention that the client actually is in profit on their, on, on what they used it for. So sometimes people just omit certain things to
Mhm,
make
mhm.
themselves seem more intelligent. um, but he was talking about a product he did not understand. He did not understand. And this is an issue that I see a lot on, I would probably say more than anywhere, LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a house of hubris where there's so many people who are professionals and they want you to believe that they're a professional who understands everything, who knows everything. Instead of being a professional at what they're a professional at, they kind of, oh, well, it's social media. So I have to input some type of thought, even though I'm not aware of what actually this thing is. Right. And I know that the person who made the post didn't know because the first time he ever spoke to me about it, he said, well, it doesn't earn the same dividend as an insurance policy. But he parades around like he's a genius on LinkedIn, right? So he makes a post about something that he believes can't keep up with an insurance policy in growth, but it's a HELOC, right? And
Right,
so
right.
I get so frustrated day in and day out with the fake professionals who believe they are in front of the client you are sitting in front of when you give advice. And when you post, and you comment on what you did with a client, I met the client. You dealt you don't know the financial situation. You don't know if the HELOC works for them or not. You're just making a just a bland, foolish
Right.
inference that the client. And so, in like manner, a lot of these types of comments also makes it seem as though you feel like you would have the answer for everybody.
There's no differentiation,
You
right?
don't.
There's no customization. It's
Yeah,
all just a commodity. And
it's
once
all
you
just a
put the
commodity.
numbers in your spreadsheet, then you get the answer, right? And, Of course,
It's a
Mike, then of course that introduces all sorts of other questions like which numbers? How are you addressing? What
what
spreadsheet?
number?
How are you analyzing it?
Exactly.
Right? What assumptions go into
Exactly.
that? Because all of this is assumptions based. We don't know what interest rates are going to be over the next 30 years, right? We don't know what your personal cash flow situation is going to be over
You
the
don't
next
know what
30
the dividend on a HELOC is gonna be.
years. Yeah, the people who are the most willing to share their opinions and the most convinced that they know everything are always the people who are the most ignorant.
They're typically the most foolish, right?
And their foolishness leads them to think that way too simplistically. They think that because they know two or three basically marketing slogans, not even facts, just
Right.
marketing slogans, therefore they think they know everything about infinite banking or first lien HELOC or what have you. The people who know the most are always the quietest. They're like Socrates. What they typically end up doing is not dictating, but asking questions, right? Because they're always trying to clarify, because everything that's thrown out there is too superficial to really respond
Yeah.
directly to. The natural thing that a thinking person would do would be to ask a question to
Ask a
try and
question first. Yeah.
yeah, to
Ask
try
a
and get the other
question
person
first.
to
Right.
clarify. Hold on. What do you
So
mean by that? How does this
I don't
work? Right.
understand that. Can you help me with that? That's the
Right.
proper way to handle it. But you see this happen so much, and it's like, can you guys please just be humble enough to ask a question?
Mhm.
Stop assuming you know something and ask a question. And I'm a very friendly guy who has a long patience, but I'm even like, oh,
In this business, you have to have.
I'm like, oh, I can't stand people pretending to be smart. That is the most aggravating.
Well,
So,
again, that's why they have to, right? It's just like anything else. Um, when the people who most try to put up an appearance like they have some
yeah,
gift are the people who don't have it. That's why they
they
have to
don't
put
have
up that appearance. The people who most want to make opulent displays of wealth are usually people who are not rich.
right.
People who are actually rich do the opposite. They want to hide it. They don't want you to know that they have a lot of money. They probably don't live an opulent lifestyle. They might, but they'll keep it quiet,
Yeah.
just like anything else.
And
So
perhaps we should also do a podcast on the difference between being a contrarian and being and playing devil's advocate. I think because there's a lot of devil's advocate that goes along, and people forget that devil is a part of it.
as a Catholic, I have a different understanding of that because the devil's advocate is actually a specific, very important role in the canonization of saints in the Catholic Church. That's where it comes from. So I think you're using the phrase differently. Devil's advocate is a colloquial phrase used to refer to someone who they're not. It's like in a business when you're proposing a strategy, you
Uh-huh.
want someone to be devil's advocate, not that they're being argumentative or negative, but their job is to poke holes in a potential strategy, right? But I agree with you. I would use a different phrase, maybe like someone who's just argumentative, right? As opposed to someone who's really saying, hey,
I would use
it's like saying, hey, DeAndre, I accept what you're saying, but let me try and poke holes in it just so I can understand the drawbacks and I can
yeah,
make sure I'm comfortable with it,
I would
right?
use inquisitive as the right word. You would want somebody who is inquisitive to make sure that they find whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, and to your point, the people who are truly contrarians are never the people who are contumacious.
Right.
I've learned over time that I'm fairly contrarian, but I'm pretty diplomatic in my interactions with other people,
That's
right?
yeah.
Because people who are like, I've been told by qualified professionals, you need to do X, blah, 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 blah. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't think that's the right advice. But I just say, "Okay." I don't sign up
Yeah,
for anything. I just make a non
yeah,
committal response and then I go and do exactly the opposite of what I
yeah,
was told to do, but I don't get into an argument. I'm not
right,
trying to win an argument. I'm just trying
right,
to do the right thing. It's the same thing with finance. I do more now more as marketing just because I'm trying to grow a business, but I
right.
don't want to get into arguments with people. I just want to find the right financial strategy for me and for my clients. And usually that means you're going to be very contrarian, but that's not the same as being contumacious, being argumentative, right?
Mm.
Being negative doesn't mean any of that.
You don't have to put down a person to poke holes in something, right?
Yeah,
You know,
you're right. I find it hilarious, these people who think they're like so edgy and going against the grain with all this stuff on social media. I'm like, look, if you're on social media, you're not going against the grain. Let's
you're
just
not the
right there. Nothing of importance is said on social media, period. If you want to be a true contrarian, get off of social media.
get off of social media. Get
Okay.
off of social media.
If
Yeah,
you're using the tool of the devil to try and fight the
Right.
devil, that's not going to work out well for you. Okay. Uh,
That's hilarious. That's
and
hilarious.
on that note, DeAndre, anything else you want to leave Mr. Boone with? Mr. Boone JM78?
Man, Mr. Boone, book an appointment with Logan. I think it'll be very eye-opening. As I've always told Logan, I believe he is one of the most effective communicators in the financial industry.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
I feel like it's clear, it's concise. There's not really, he may feel like there's a little bit of emotion put into it, but I don't believe there's much sentimentality into the way he's positioning what he states. And I think that's very useful. You will know if you even need an investment first position HELOC or if you should just use a regular loan, right? If you are a VA person, if you need to use a VA loan for it, if you need to use an FHA loan for it, by the end of the conversation, you will know what decision to make. And that's valuable. There is value in knowing that I did not make the wrong decision that would have cost me 30, 40, sometimes $100,000 more, maybe even $200,000 more. It just depends, right? So book the $500 consult. It's you investing into your future and your understanding of things better. I'll say
and
that.
I'll even throw this out there, Mr. Boone. If you don't think you do have to pay me the 500 up front. However, if after that consultation you don't feel like you've gotten the value, I will refund you the $500. But you got to pay me up front. You got to pay me up front, and then you've got to tell me why. Like what was missing? Give me the feedback. What did you think
Yeah,
didn't provide the value?
I was gonna say, don't let Mr. Boone tell you this wasn't valuable. Give me my 500. And some people do that too. It's
He's
like,
not going to book a consultation. This guy is never going to book a consultation. He will never do velocity banking or infinite banking. He might think he's doing it because he'll try
right,
and do it on his own, but he will
right,
never do it. That's
right.
unfortunately the reality. The only time now, oh, this is just my experience. People like this, what unfortunately has to happen in order for them to change and actually do the right thing is something very negative has to happen to them in their personal
Oh
life.
yeah.
And it's very sad, but sometimes that's what people need. They don't get serious about this stuff. They don't lose their arrogance until they get stricken with some terrible disease, spouse dies, child dies, parents go into long-term care, right? Something
Hmm.
terrible like that, divorce, whatever, right? Foreclosure or bankruptcy, right? Something like that has to happen to them before they finally lose a little bit of the ego and get serious about it. That's unfortunately what has to happen.
Yeah. And on that note, separate your response of a comment for what was the initial reason for clicking on the video in the first place. Like you have to realize that if you're down whatever rabbit hole, like I'll say this, I hate Brussels sprouts, right? So there is in no world where you will look at anything on my YouTube where there was a video about Brussels sprouts and how to prepare them, where I was like, "Oh, that looks delicious. Let me," and I need to click on it. So psychologically, there was something that led to you saying, "There's a bunch of videos online," because there's millions of videos online. What was it that was your initial reason for saying, "I would like to learn more about a first position HELOC"? Because sometimes we get tied up into, oh, that one person said that. Yeah, why did he say that? Why he didn't do that? Like we get tied up into. There's people who go to a video and drop to the comments first. They drop to the comments first. They don't even watch the video. They're just like, okay, what they saying in the
They
comments,
saw the title, DeAndre, therefore they know everything that's in the video, right?
right? And so don't be that person. Don't be that person. If you had a legitimate reason why you wanted to learn something new, learn it. Don't go to the comments and be like, "I'll write this guy off because he didn't give it all to me here." Like,
DeAndre, if they've seen the title and the thumbnail, they know everything there is to know about you, your business, your personal life, your family, everything. They know everything, right?
yeah, everything, everything, everything. It's crazy. It's crazy. But just do that too, because that's a question I ask people whenever they come to me. One of the first questions I ask them is, "What made you click? What brought you here?"
Mhm.
Because that's the reason for the whole conversation. Like, what's going on in your life This practice, I use the analogy of a GPS. I always tell people that, when you come to me, you turn your location on. I need to know what's going on, of why I'm even speaking to you. I'm not just trying to waste time speaking to you and not know where you're at in life, what you're trying to
Right.
accomplish.
Because it's not just a commodity. If you don't
No,
tell me how you want the house to be built,
right.
if you don't, and no, back up a step, tell me about you. Because you might say, I want a policy that looks like this, this, this. I want a first lien deal like with this bank, looks like this. Well, hold on. Why do you think all that? Because if you've got that all figured out, you don't need me. So let's back up, big picture. Tell me about you. What are your goals? Where are
Well,
your
yeah,
finances currently? And now I can actually help you much better. If
yeah.
you're not willing to do that, why are you wasting time with me? You already
Why
know
are we
everything. You got it all figured out.
why
If
are
it's
we
just if it's just a cup of coffee, just go buy the coffee. You don't need me.
Yeah. I just don't understand that. So let's have that conversation first. Let's have the conversation of what made you click on this video? What intrigued you? What's going on in your life that you're trying to solve? What is the problem? Because obviously there's a problem. Because people without problems
Or
don't
an
look at
opportunity. Let's call it an opportunity. I don't want to insult people. An opportunity, right?
okay, they want an opportunity. But whatever it is, there was something in the back of your mind that said, this is something that I would like to learn. Take
It
time
must
to
have been
learn.
because the amazing thumbnail and the clickbaity title,
That's
right?
hilarious.
I'm not a good marketer, guys. I'm not a good
That's
marketer.
hilarious. But yeah, so that's
Here,
all I
here's
would
the title: Velocity Banking with a First Lien HELOC. Anthony Rushing interviews. The most
yeah,
boring title you ever
that's
heard.
not at all.
And then it's
That's
just got a picture of Anthony.
yeah.
So so it's yeah, it's pretty
And
boring.
yeah, and Anthony's just Anthony, you know what I'm saying? That's my guy though. Anthony. Love
All right,
Anthony.
DeAndre. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun.
Likewise, my friend.
We'll do
Likewise.
it again
Always,
soon. All
always a
right.
pleasure. All right.
Bye bye.